Well, it was nice to see that Josh Lowe is back in the Rays lineup, and I thought he swung the bat pretty well since he's returned. But, man, this team could not win a series against the Marlins, and that is not really good if you follow the Marlins at all, and why would you?
It's like the first time in 12 or 13 series that they haven't beat the Marlins.
It goes
or
way
lost
back.
a series, I should say.
Many years, I think, it seems that they have come up short down there. But, just didn't hit one day, and played sloppy defense, and I think they got beat like 9-4, and then they did have one good game, and after that, the pitching has been kind of spotty.
Although they gave up 2 home runs today.
Yeah, Shane Baz was going around okay for a little while, and then they gave up the big fly, and they didn't hit. You had mentioned to me before the podcast they didn't hit any home runs in Miami.
Nope. That game today was lost though in was it the second or third inning? I don't remember which inning it was. But they scored a run. Then they load the bases still with no outs and can't get another run in.
Yeah.
Brendan Lau lined out to center field.
Right.
And Rortvedt at third. I don't know why he's so far off the base at that point.
Well, he's bad base running. So the ball's clearly, it's either going to drop for a base hit or it's going to be caught. It was kind of a looping line drive. And it wasn't that deep, but if you're on third base with less than 2 outs, the first thing you do is go back to third. Because why? If it drops, you're going to score fairly easily, and if it's caught, you want to be able to get beyond the bag and tag. Well, he didn't either. He went halfway down the line, retreated, and by the time he tried to get to third base, and he slipped over the top of the bag, the guy had already caught it and was in his motion throwing home, so he had no chance to score. So, just bad base running, and that's the kind of stuff that like. It's little things, but man, you come out of that inning and you had a chance to put a big inning and separate there early in the game, and you didn't take advantage of it. So
yep, and then Junior Caminero grounds into another double play.
Yeah, I mean,
I believe he's leading baseball. I think it's 13 this year. Something he's around there. It's 12 to 14 in that range.
Yeah. Well, remember when Shane Baz was like Cy Young the first 3 starts? He had 2-0. I think he had given up only 3 runs. He had 27 strikeouts. Man, the bottom has fallen out on him a little bit over these last few starts, and he just doesn't have command. It's just sort of what plagued him when he was up here before, is not staying ahead of hitters. And he's got great stuff. I mean, there's no doubt he can throws hard. He's got a variety of breaking balls, and he's not. When you watch him pitch, he doesn't miss by much, but he misses. And I think, teams are onto it that, don't swing too early in the count and he'll get behind, and then you can hurt him a little bit. So he's been just kind of pitching backwards lately. And, you gave me a stat before we came on that surprised me. I still think the strength of their team is probably pitching, because God knows they're really inconsistent scoring runs and hitting. But then you made it apparent. You said that where they rank as a starting staff is not good.
Neil Solon said this on the radio broadcast today. So going into Sunday's game, the starting staff for the Rays, or the starting pitching, had an ERA 19th in baseball.
Jeez.
Out of 30.
When has that ever been the case here? Never. Right?
And while the team is not scoring a lot, although in the American League, they're 10th in runs scored out of 15. So that's right around the same spot there in pitching. I mean, 19th out of 30. So you're not scoring a ton, and your starting pitching's not doing great. It's hard to win games.
Well, and to the point that we were mentioning Baz, and I remember I was over there with Mark Tompkin doing a game, and they were writing, like MLB Network was talking about Baz as like, this breakthrough season, and he got off to such a good start. And, they were comparing to some guys, and then almost ever since then, the wheels kind of came off. So he's allowed at least 5 runs in 4 of his last 6 games. And so he's 1-3 with a 7.80 ERA. This goes to your point about the starting pitching. 38 hits, including 7 home runs, and only 21 strikeouts in 30 innings. So overall now he's 3-3 with a 5.33 ERA. But you talk about like just completely reversing a start to the season. And again, it's command mostly, I think.
So I'm looking up some stats here for starting pitching or starters.
Yeah.
The Rays have given up the 3rd most home runs in baseball from the starters.
Wow. Wow.
44 of them. The
Mm.
Orioles have given up 48, and they just fired their manager.
Their manager got fired, yeah. Mm.
And the Blue Jays have given up 47. The Rays are next. Which, by the way, that's 44 home runs the starters have given up. That's more than the Rays have hit, I believe.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. Now,
and their ERA as a starters are 4.19, and that includes any if you start an opener, that's including those stats. It's whoever starts the game. But yeah, they've that's not good. Yeah, the Rays have 39 home runs this season. They've given up 44 from the starters.
Mm.
It doesn't win you a lot of games.
No, it's really hard to fathom because the pitching should be the strength of this baseball team. It always has been, pitching and defense. But the offense isn't good at all. So when you're sitting here trying to decide where are they worse, that's not a good recipe for the Rays, because they at least could hang their hat on pitching and defense and run prevention instead of accumulation and all of that. I do think Lowe will help him. And when he came back, they were still in Toronto, and he had a home run, and Brendan Lau had two, and Brendan Lau was kind of on a little bit of an uptick tear there. He went back to his original bat, whatever that is, and so he was swinging it pretty good. But yeah, just Miami's a place, not a great baseball team. They've dominated down there in that stadium, and it was the end of a road trip, but you had a chance to take 2 out of 3, and they were on a run of series wins, but weren't able to close it out. And the weird thing is, there's still only 4 games under 500, I think. And, the AL East is sort of bunched up with a lot of mediocre teams. The Yankees are on top, but the rest of them aren't that good. So you still have a chance, to do something. But now they're going to have the longest, I think it's the longest homestand of the remaining part of the schedule coming up, starting with Houston.
Yeah, it's what, a 10-game series homestand, I believe?
You're right. Yeah, I believe
it's going to run through the Memorial Day weekend. So
yeah, and they have not played
Houston,
well
Toronto. It's a 9 game because actually Thursday will be an off day. So Houston, Toronto, Minnesota.
Got it. Yeah. Well, I don't have. Listen, it's getting late early, as they say. I mean, we're through the middle of May, so you get to June, July, get the All-Star break here coming up before too long, and you can kind of know where you're at. But it just doesn't seem like, and they didn't do much in the off season, to improve their lineup in terms of acquisitions and things like that. Maybe you get, Shane McClanahan back at some point. You're going to have your shortstop back soon, I guess, or maybe by June.
Well, now we have to wait and see on Chandler Simpson too.
Yeah, my God, I'll tell you. I watched that. My wife and I were waiting to pick up the girls from dance, and we were like at Carrabba's or something, and had it on the big screen and watching this game. And I see him coming around third, and I'm telling you, that's the worst landing I've seen at home plate. It wasn't head first; it was face first. Like he did a plant of his face into the dirt, and you could see, like, just the dirt kick up from his head, from his face, and came up with a bloody lip or nose or something like that. He didn't feel well enough to play on Sunday, but I don't think there's anything that's going to keep him out long term. But man, it was almost a scary sight. I think he lost his balance. I mean, he was flying as he always does around third. Surprising thing was they threw him out.
Yeah, you don't expect that.
No, and it wasn't like the tag got him. He flopped, and I don't know if he tripped on the way in or what, or the catcher got him, but the first thing to hit the dirt was his face, and that's never good.
No, and they thought he would play on Sunday. He did not play Sunday. They'll find out more today. So
yeah, so hopefully he can, because he's the one thing I think that they got going for him.
Did you see former Ray pitcher Jose Alvarado suspended 80 games?
Yeah, 80 games. Mm-hmm.
And now the new rules. So he's their top reliever. He's making $17 million this year, suspended for half a season. He's not eligible for the postseason now.
Really? That's the new rule?
It's a new rule in baseball. If you get suspended for PEDs, you're not eligible for the postseason, even if you're back by then. So
I didn't realize he was with the Phillies. I saw him come in against the Rays, and that's the first time I saw him pitch for them. But
that's a huge blow to the Phillies.
Kind of surprising that guys are still doing PEDs, a little bit. But I'm sure if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, or something like that. I don't know.
Well, once he dies, he'll be eligible for the Hall of Fame. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't want to talk about the Hall of Fame right now. Okay, so today, and this has not been made official, I feel like a little bit when I wrote that Antonio Brown had a fake vax card, and I was kind of out there flapping in the wind for a couple of weeks. I've been out there flapping in the wind at least since Friday, and or Thursday, and that is, was it Thursday or Friday? Friday, I guess. And that is that Simeon Rice is going to be introduced today around 1:30. I think the press conference is scheduled for, as the newest member of the Ring of Honor. We've talked about it on this podcast, and the Bucs have not announced that officially. They've announced the press conference in which I think Joel Glazer will be there and introduce the newest member of the Ring of Honor. They haven't had a player, by the way, go into the Ring of Honor since 2019, because remember, they had Bruce Arians and Monty Kiffin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Malcolm Glazer. Those have been, I think, the last three. And then John Gruden a second time, which is going to happen soon, I guess. I don't know.
Now, is there a ceremony for when you go back in the hall after you've
I'll
been
tell you what, man. I don't
kicked
know.
out of the hall?
I might open a box. You know what I mean? Maybe open a 50th anniversary Gruden.
Or was the schedule released? Is that the announcement? Or
they're going to send me a box every day. The first day is going to be the letter G. Then they're going to send me the R. And then we're going to go right through. And I get them all. I'm going to put them up there in the stadium. I don't know. It's a good question. I'm told there's not going to be a ceremony, that they did that. They don't want to do it again.
Right. I don't think they really want to draw attention that, hey, we kicked him out and put him back in. Like,
no, but listen, he is all the way back to this organization now. And I think I've talked about this. We were at the, they had the Coaches Academy where they have 25 people from about 1,000 applicants that can come in and kind of end up. A couple of them ended up they worked the rookie mini camp, and about 5 of them will be invited back for training camp. So it's a great opportunity. All kinds of coaches, high school and some college, and even had Robert Ayers, former player, that's the assistant defensive line coach of Tennessee, was there. But Gruden did one of the seminars, which were not part of last year's program, obviously, and he did his famously his kind of did his film study, if you will, and his archive of films is ridiculous. And he's showing, this is Jerry Rice, man. Look at this guy in practice. And I had this guy at, he showed a tape of a Pittsburgh receiver when he was like, receivers coach at Pitt or something for Jackie Sherrill. I don't know. Anyway, then he taught these coaching candidates the snap count, and went out and they ran some plays and did a walkthrough and all this sort of thing. But he is all the way back with this organization, with the Glazers, which is, I think, is good. A lot of people have different opinions about it, but yeah, we're going to see him, I think, probably around the Bucs quite a bit this year. Maybe even at Simeon Rice's induction. They bring a lot of those guys out and they line the field. You know what I mean? Former Ring of Honor inductees, and which got us to thinking. And we had a question. I think that is a mailbag question about the Ring of Honor, and in essence, it was about who we think should be the next candidate or the next inductee into the Bucs Ring of Honor, which is always a great debate.
It's always a good. I mean, because first of all, how quickly does Tom Brady go in?
Yeah,
he's already gone in New England, so
yeah,
which that needed to go first, of course.
Yeah,
where he spent 20 years.
Right.
How quickly does he go in?
Right.
Does Gerald McCoy get in?
Well, I think he should. I don't know if he's high on the list. A lot of this depends too on what era you're talking about. Sometimes they like to go backwards and sometimes forwards.
Yep.
If you go backwards, there's some momentum for a James Wilder, which a lot of people don't remember James Wilder. But he was a running back here in the 80s, a workhorse guy who touched the ball 400 times a season. And I think that's a worthy one.
Yep.
Yeah, G-Mac, I think, is one. And then with Brady, it's, I noticed, and it wouldn't surprise me if he went in this year. He's not now. Obviously, they picked Simeon. But with Brady, part of it is he works for Fox now. Now, last year he had 3 games that he covered Tampa. Yep. Now, this could change, I suppose. But when I saw they do this thing called Fox's game of the week, and that's where their number one crew is.
Yep.
And he currently doesn't have any Bucs games on his
Correct.
on the Fox game of the week.
But he could come to the Thursday night Atlanta game.
He could. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Or
yes.
Monday night games.
Or a Monday night game that he's
not
not
a home
calling.
one this year yet, unless they're flexed. But
no, I think all of that's possible. You know what? Maybe they're waiting for the new stadium. You know, the one that's going to have the statue of Tom out there tossing the Lombardi Trophy across the river that I've asked for. So maybe they're waiting on that. I don't know. But he will go in, I think, pretty soon. But I'd love to see Gerald McCoy. I think he's absolutely deserving. 6 straight Pro Bowls, just because you're on some bad teams, and he became the poster child for, Buccaneer failures. And unfortunately so. It's like the guy that has to answer on every bad team. Like there's this one player or 2 players that the media runs to because, 1, they're not jerks, and 2, they're actually good players. And you're always going to the same guys saying, what happened? What happened? What went wrong? How'd you guys lose today? And it becomes a burden. And Gerald didn't run from it. But because he was always sort of, trying to explain the unexplainable, he became synonymous with losing. And then, of course, when he did move on, his career was marred by injuries. He went to Carolina first, and then tried to play for Dallas and then the Raiders, I believe. But after he left here, they got another number 93 in Ndamukong Suh, and they won a Super Bowl. So that was sort of salt in the wound a little bit too. And a lot of people were like, see, but that's not why. If Gerald McCoy had Tom Brady at quarterback, I assure you he'd have been just fine at defensive tackle on that Super Bowl team. He would have been produced just fine. But that was not the case. But yeah, to me, GMAC is definitely one. Warwick Dunn, quite frankly, I think did enough. If you're going to put Mike Allstott in, who was here longer, but not that much longer, and Mike went in a long time ago, certainly deserving, most popular Buck maybe ever. But I think Warwick left right before the Super Bowl season. They got Michael Pittman instead, and they had Thomas Jones here for a little while, and Warwick went on to a great career up in Atlanta. Some of his best seasons were in Atlanta, but I would like to see his name up there too. I think it's deserving. And then, of course, there's a ton of guys from the current.
I mean, Warwick Dunn had nearly 5,000 yards in just 6 seasons with Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're averaging 800 some yards a season.
Right.
Now it's not apples and apples comparison because Allstott's a different position. But in 11 years, he only had 100 yards more than Warwick Dunn.
Right.
Like I said, now fullback to tailback, not apples to apples, of course, but
no. But really, Mike, while he was listed at fullback and he did play that position some, he was really a tailback. I mean, he ran the football from the I formation, and sometimes he had a fullback in front of him.
That's true.
Lorenzo Neal blocked for Mike Allstott as much as Mike Allstott blocked for Warwick Dunn.
Yep.
And so they were this combination of thunder and lightning. And yeah, it was only 6 seasons, and I'm not sure. Well, I am sure he should have never gone and left here as a free agent. He wasn't asking for that much money. John Gruden, for whatever reason, decided not to pay him what he was going to get in Atlanta. And you can't blame Warwick for taking the money at that point in his career because he was an unrestricted free agent.
Yep.
He just happened to miss out on the Super Bowl year. So short career, but a huge impact. And then I'm sorry, but there's also a part of me that says, community should matter too. Here's a guy that started the Homes for the Holiday initiative and, still continues that to this day, both here in Atlanta and helps finance homes and helps get down payments for single mothers because his mom, who was a Louisiana police officer, was killed in the line of duty. He practically did raise his siblings while he was beginning his career at Florida State. So I think those are when you talk about the honor part of the Ring of Honor. This is not the Hall of Fame, and we're not debating Pete Rose here, but to me, those were impactful, transcendent type players for this franchise that really on and off the field sort of, should be remembered in perpetuity with their names on the stadium, I think. But, we'll see where it goes from there.
Well, let me ask you this then. What current Buccaneers will end up in the Ring of Honor.
There's a whole bunch of them.
I
There's
mean,
a whole bunch of them.
I mean, Evans and Levante David are givens. And
they're locks because I think Mike's going to be Mike's a lock anyway, but
Yep.
Mike's the all-time leading receiver. He's going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, so he will
Yep.
definitely be a lock. Chris Godwin is the second leading receiver in franchise history. To me, he will also be a Ring of Honor recipient at some point when his career is over, which could be sooner than later. And then you mentioned Levante David, who is a borderline Hall of Fame player at the very least, and maybe time. You know, Levante is one of these guys that he's much like Ronde Barber, who is terrific, but I think what helped Barber was his longevity. Longevity can have its curse, but it also can have its blessing because you can do things in your career that people haven't done when you play that many seasons, right? When you're talking about forced fumbles or interceptions, or in the case of Ronde, you know, it was a combination of sacks and interceptions that no one had done. But when you play like Ronde played like 16 years, right? And Levante's going into what, year 14, I think, or something like that. He's going to be 35 years old. So those are locks. And then I got a few others that, I mean, I think, look, I would think Tristan Wirfs is going to be a Ring of Honor guy. He's going to probably wear a gold jacket if he plays another 3 or 4 seasons, right? He's going to be one of the best left tackles in the game. He's going to make a whole bunch of Pro Bowls and all pros. Until his injury last year, I would have told you that Antoine Winfield Jr. had that look as well. You know, that he was going to be one of those iconic players that makes a whole bunch of Pro Bowls and maybe wins a couple Super Bowls too. After that, I mean, could Baker Mayfield play himself?
I was just going to say he's not there yet, but
yeah, but a couple more good seasons, he's going to move up the passing ladder.
But he's only like 30.
Yeah,
if they continue to win division championships,
sure,
and maybe go on further, maybe win a Super Bowl or 2.
Yeah, well, you'd take one, and if you could play in a couple championships, that would be nice too. But here's the thing about Baker. What I would worry is his style of play. Although he is 30 now, so you know he's played that way his whole life, and he's made it to 30. So let's give him credit for that. But you know how healthy he can stay because of his style of play, I'm not real sure about. But I will say this: you know, at 33 and a third $1 million a year, when you see what Brock Purdy signed for since we last spoke, it's crazy. I mean, I think he's, you know, close to
top
the
5 or 6 in the NFL,
mid 50s, yeah, per year, and guaranteed him a whole bunch. I could see after this season, let's say that Baker Mayfield takes his team to another NFC South title, which would be 5 in a row, and he'd be part of 3 of them. And let's say they make it to the NFC Championship or better. Baker Mayfield would have 1 year left on his deal, and he would be in line for an enormous raise, like to at least $50 million or more. You know, he'd be every bit as valuable as Brock Purdy is to the 49ers. So, you know, not only did the Bucs find a tremendous bailout after Brady left, but they got one that's relatively cheap compared to what these quarterbacks are making now, upwards of $60 million a year, some of them. So Baker's in line for that, and you know, no one's going to feel sorry for him. He signed a $100 million contract with the Bucs a year ago, and good for him. But I think he has, because he will move up the ladder in the passing numbers if he stays here, and he has a chance to win. The biggest thing is if you win, and I think he has a really good chance to win many more titles here. So that'll be one. And as far as, you know, like, is Todd Bowles going to be up there one day? I think he'd probably have to win a little bit more in terms of maybe NFC championships or get to a Super Bowl or win one. Certainly, there's not been a coach that has won a Super Bowl that isn't in the Ring of Honor. Of course, that's, you know, just 2 of them, Gruden and Bruce Arians, and Bruce wasn't here that long, but they put him in.
What about Vita Vea?
Yeah, I think so. I think you can make an argument that Vita Vea was the, you know, one of the premier, you know, nose tackles or, you know, inside players in the NFL during his time. Certainly for the Bucs. I mean, next to Warren Sapp, there's probably not been, you know, an interior tackle that's been as effective as him. He's made a number of Pro Bowls, and he was on a Super Bowl team. So I mean, look, all those guys are going to have their day, but it's just tough. You know, the Glazers, they're very They want to be judicious about it. They don't want to necessarily have a guy every single year. They do also want to, you know, honor other people in the organization. I mean, I could see Jason Light is going to go up there one day. You know, Jason Light, it would be, I think, the first general manager. I mean, obviously, John McKay kind of performed that role a little bit when he was the head coach, but I could see him going up there. I'll be honest with you, and it won't be popular, and it may never happen. I think Rich McKay is deserving to be in the Ring of Honor, the Bucs Ring of Honor, because of what he did during the Dungy years and into the Gruden years before he went to Atlanta as their team president and later general manager. So that's probably more difficult argument because of him leaving and going to the rival franchise. But the Glazers allowed that to happen.
Well, that'd be the
And
same argument for Warwick Dunn then.
there would be, and
Although Warwick did come back for his last year in the
let's not forget too, you've got more than just one Glazer. You got Joel, you got Brian, you got Darcy, right? That have been very instrumental and visible in this franchise. So this depends. That new stadium or the renovation of that new stadium or the stadium, whenever they do it, is going to have to include some extra cement there for the Ring of Honors because they're going to fill up pretty quick. And but that's part of 50 years of Bucs football that we're on, coming on to the 50th season, and so there'll be a lot of those look backs, and I know the Bucs have commissioned them. They're going to have a movie. It's going to be great. There's going to be a lot of remembrances about former players, and we could go on. And there's probably a lot of players, that wore the orange here that are deserving that we're not thinking about right now. Um, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of names that are going to go back up there, and I think Simeon Rice for what he did, and to me, he's a Hall of Famer. If you look at his numbers, I don't think it's indisputable in my mind. And he for some reason he hasn't gotten a lot of consideration. He's made it to the 25, I think, before. Never went beyond that. But with the number of sacks that he had, over 120 sacks, something like that, and the big plays he made, it's just tough. And I know that room. I know those Hall of Fame voters. And what's tough about it is that they've already got 4 players or 5. Was it 4 or 5 players? 4 players and a coach that's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and they go, okay, they're all on defense, but they won just one Super Bowl, and you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and how many defensive players do they got, and so you start making comparisons, and you go, yeah, they were great, but do they really have 5 Hall of Famers? Well, I think they did. And I think if you read the story I wrote and what Tony Dungy had to say is that Simeon Rice changed this defense. They were great before that. If you remember what they did to the Rams in '99, but like we said the other day, Simeon Rice being the edge guy and being a guy that get the ball out, and he had so many sack fumbles and big plays, he really made that into a Super Bowl caliber defense from what was just a great defense for years and years. So, yeah, I think it'll be great to see Sim, man. He's always entertaining. He'll be on fire with the interviews. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to him on the side a little bit and bring you some of that on Sports Day Tampa Bay. But that announcement still unofficial. I'm still the Lone Ranger out there, but it's going to happen tomorrow at 1:30. Hey, not far from Raymond James Stadium is International Plaza Mall. We need you guys to go there and go to Breitling Boutique. That's right, the Breitling Boutique. The Breitling has been making these great Swiss watches now for over 140 years. They've been in International Plaza for more than 5 years. Now you go to the middle of the mall. It's upstairs on the second floor. You can't miss it. It's a tremendous store, great experience. Customer service is second to none. They're going to tell you all about the great timepieces they have in there. Their chronomat watches, the Navatimers, men's and ladies' watches for your wife, for your girlfriend as well. And if your wife or girlfriend is on the go like mine, listen, she needs something that's going to be durable and beautiful at the same time. All different colored wristbands for her. She's going to love them. You're going to love the Chronomat watches. And they've been doing this thing where they've been celebrating the NFL's 104th year anniversary. There's 32 teams in the NFL. There is a Chronomat watch for each team while supplies last. That's the key. And you're talking about these watches, whether you're about the Dolphins or the Bucs or the Jaguars or whoever you root for. The Bucs watch, for example, you go to tampabay.com, you probably see an ad with that. It's got the Chronomat watch. It's got the team colors. inside the watch and the face of the watch and the logos. And these things are stunning watches anyway. Then you add the NFL component to it. It's just terrific to see. It's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Make sure when you go, you let them know that you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. All right, we got to just one mailbag question, I think, today, but we certainly have room for those throughout the week. You can send those to us on X or Twitter at NFL Stroud or at SportsDayTB. My email address is also rstroud@tampabay.com. The Rays begin their series against the Houston Astros back home. I guess their temporary home at Steinbrenner Field, so we'll see if they can turn it around as far as the home cooking goes a little bit. And, what else we got?
We're going to have a old friend join us later this week.
Who's that?
As we get ready for the holiday weekend. I can't believe Memorial Day's here, by the way, this week.
You know what we're going to talk to Tom Jones about? We're going to talk about Tom Jones.
Okay.
Tom Jones went to see Tom Jones at Ruth Eckerd Hall.
Wow.
Yeah. And I can only imagine that both Tom Joneses were like, it's like that Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other,
Yes.
So we're going to find out what's new, Pussycat, when it comes to all that. And that had to be quite a show. I heard the dude's like got to be, pushing 80? I don't know, 78? I don't know what he is, but he's up there. But I heard Tom Jones told me that Tom Jones rocked out. So we got to get all that down. He's been hanging out in New York, at some of the swanky places. He went to a show the other day, Glen Ross on Broadway. So we'll get the latest on what's happening in New York with his son, Sam, and everything else. But, yeah, it'd be fun to visit with Tom. So make sure you look forward to that the rest of the week. And then I'll be at the Bucs today to talk to Simeon Rice as he's introduced as the Bucs' newest member of the team's Ring of Honor. So thanks for listening, everybody. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day.